All right, so we are in MCCR Core. This is Module 1, Section 2. Section 2 is all about fall hazards. Fall hazards is number one of the big four. Most accidents and deaths on job sites occur because people fall and hurt themselves. Right, so we want to prevent that from happening at all costs. And why these are so bad? Because compared to other accidents, say you shoot your hand with a nail, that hurts a lot. It'll take a little while to heal, but you're not dead. If you fall off a roof that's 50 feet tall, you're basically over. And so fall hazards are a really big deal. But even minor falls, if you slip on ice, that's a big deal. A broken leg takes a lot longer to heal than a nail through a hand. And so we're going to be talking about fall protection. In general, there is a 6-foot roll. So just remember, if you're working above 6 feet, you're going to want to have some kind of fall protection. This can be handrails, this can be a fall arrest harness, and different things like that. So fall prevention. You want to make sure you're keeping your work area clean. Always make sure there's not a bunch of debris for you to trip on if you're carrying stuff. Check out your path before you pick up something heavy and start walking. Make sure it's clear. Watch out for ice. Pay attention to that. And watch out for extension cords and those things. Make sure if you have them, make sure they're running nice and flat. There's no big loop sticking up in the air that can cause you to trip. And then when you're working them, just be smart. Don't play around on a roof. Don't run around on scaffold. Be smart. So, a hole in the ground. There's different symbols you can see. Red is danger, yellow is caution. You ever see yellow and purple together? That means radiation. So Area 51, yellow, purple, radiation. I'm just making that up, but I don't know, something to help that stick in your head, those colors. So yellow, purple means radiation. And so if you see a hole, here's different ways you can protect yourself, different kinds of guardrails, right? These ones go actually into the ground. These are just wooden stakes, caution tape. This is fencing. These are basically sawhorses, but the best thing you can do if you have a hole in the ground, the best option is put something over top of it, block the hole. And so a lot of accidents explain in housing when they're building houses, steps lots of times are one of the last things to get made. But when you're framing the house, you have to put the hole in the floor where the steps are going to go. A lot of times accidents happen because they don't cover that hole and you're carrying a board, you can't see where you're walking, and then you fall through that hole. So always make sure you cover it up. Or just build a temporary set of stairs right away so you don't have to worry about it. But I see a lot of accidents happen that way. So you want to cover up any hole. That's the best option. We're going to talk about fall arrest harnesses. I'm going to show you guys how to wear one of these properly, but we're looking at the parts of it. So you're always going to have an anchor point, which is here at the top. You're going to have some kind of connecting device. This one is retractable. This one is a lanyard like you'll see in our class. But so retractable, this is like a seat belt. It comes out and in, and if it moves really fast, it'll lock in place like your seat belt. And then here is your fall arrest harness. See, this is the D-ring. Notice the placement between his shoulder blades.
This is the D-ring that should go between your shoulder blades on your back. So this is where your connection point is going to hold you to your anchor. And so this is the D-ring. So what you want to do is find that before you put these on, and then find what's going to be the shoulder straps. So this I know are my shoulder straps. This is the strap that goes down my back. All right? So an easy way to tell is here is the chest strap is going to go across the front. And so I know that's facing the front. And so that means this has to go across my shoulders. Once you find your shoulders, make sure everything isn't angled, and then you're going to slide it over your back. So, your connection point, you have your chest strap. This goes across your chest, and you're going to these ones, you turn sideways, slide it in. Now it's secured across your chest. And so now your leg straps. And so this isn't enough. If I were to fall off the roof, this is just going to slide right off of me, right? Almost more important than the chest strap is your leg straps, because that's actually what's going to keep it from falling off. And so your leg strap, you got to reach through, grab a hold of it, and you're going to come to one side, right? And then reach through. And the same thing, you're going to apply it to the other side. When you're wearing a harness, something to keep track of and think about is what is in your pockets. Like right now, my wallet is in my pocket, it shouldn't be there, or keys, because if you were to fall and this would slide up on you, whatever's in your pocket is going to go and dig into your leg. So you should empty out your pockets before you're doing this. And the other thing you want to think about I'm just demonstrating, so I'm not gonna do it super tight. But you want these straps to be nice and snug. You want these tight so they aren't gonna move around very much. First off, it'll make it more comfortable as you're walking around the job site all day. It'll kind of feel like it's just part of your clothing. And then secondly, if you were to fall, think of like a car accident and the impact of a airbag when it goes off, right? It really slams, there's a lot of force. So the same way, if you're gonna fall off a roof and this is what's gonna be the thing that protects you, you don't want all of a sudden all that slack to slam up and hit you really hard, right? Because you can see that's probably gonna cause an accident. Probably gonna damage things, probably where they aren't unsavable at that point, right? So if you keep everything tight, you don't have to worry about that. So you're gonna tighten your leg strap, so if you actually fell, you're good to go. And then again, tighten your chest strap. And you wanna get everything situated also so that this is maintained between your shoulder blades. You don't want it up on the back of your neck because that'll snap your head forward. And you don't want it too low on your back because then if you fall, you're gonna end up upside down. So you want it in your shoulder blades, so what's gonna happen is if I fall, I'm gonna maintain this position. So here you have a connection point for, I'll show you that in a second. You can hang your tools or whatnot. And if you're going to be wearing a tool belt with this, you want the tool belt over top of your harness. You don't want it inside the harness, right? So you want the tool belt separate because you want the harness to be able to go tight to your body. And so again, when you fall, it doesn't have a snap. You want this to be part of your body almost. You want to be connected to you. So then, the next part's gonna happen is this is your lanyard. This is what holds you to
your anchor point. So this one is a permanent one. This will get bolted into something. They have ones that screw into concrete. This one's neat because it clamps onto I-beams. It's made and you can move it around. Sometimes they're on wheels where they'll slide along the I-beam. Oops. And then also here, you can see you can tie it, the lanyard, wrap it around and hook it on itself. That's another way to do it.
And then this is my shock absorber, or this is called that. And so what happens if I fall, so I don't get a whiplash effect, because think about it, if you all of a sudden you're falling and all of a sudden that string gets real taut, it's gonna snap you like a rag doll when you hit the bottom. A bungee jumper doesn't jump off a bridge with a strong rope. It jumps off of the rope that's going to stretch because it absorbs the impact like a rubber band. And so that's what this is designed to do. So this is the part that's going to go onto your body. And so you click this onto the D-ring in your back. You might want to have someone else do this for you. You can't reach. So that's clicked on, and then this is going to click on to the roofing. So this little loop I referenced earlier, this is just handy to have if say you're walking around the job site, you get off the roof and you have to go get something out of the truck. You just click this here and then it's out of the way. So again, this is what is going to be going on to the roof point. This has a 2-part system. You can't just click the front. You have to squeeze the back first, and that enables you to open it. And so that's just a safety lock mechanism to make sure it doesn't disconnect accidentally.
Here are different types of lanyards. This one's a shock absorbing one. All right, so if you fall, it's going to have, this one has a spring. Ours is up in that bundle, but it's like a bungee cord. It's going to take out that whiplash effect. Here is a retractable one. This one has a built-in. What's neat is the rope gets longer as you walk away. And so just super efficient, just makes it nice. So when you're tied off, you don't have to worry about your rope length. It'll always be adjusted properly. If you're using a lanyard that doesn't have any kind of shock absorbing, you're only going to use it to restrain you, meaning you always have tension on it. And so say you're leaning off the side of something, hanging over the edge, that's when you're going to be using it. Only for positioning.
Once you get your system set up, you get all the straps adjusted and it feels good, it's yours, right? You don't want to be sharing this with a bunch of people. You want one that you're going to maintain and use because you don't want to have to adjust it every time when someone else uses it. So your company should supply you with your own. Again, they might give you a basic one like this. If you're going to be doing it a lot, I recommend going and purchasing a nicer one that has shoulder straps and different things to make it more comfortable. This one is basic, so it doesn't have it. You also have an option, as you can see in the textbook, are a safety strap that you would hook somewhere on the hip and you would drop them down, and there's a foot loop. So say I was hanging off a building, I fell and I was suspended in the air. That is a lot of tension on my femoral artery that runs right here on the inside of your thigh. That's a major artery of blood supply just to your body. And so things happen if that gets cut off, the blood that is in your leg is gonna pull and it's gonna get bad. It's basically just dead blood sitting there. And then also, it's just messing with the whole circulation system. Your body's struggling, can't push the blood through the whole loop system of all your arteries. And so that's a major problem. You don't want to cut off that blood supply. And so what those straps do, I would hook my foot and then I can stand up and relieve the pressure off of these straps.
Here, this is a suspension trauma strap. And so when I was talking about harnesses, you heard me say we have one of these. If your suit comes with one, use them. And it's again to alleviate that pressure that is on your major artery here in your leg. And so you can see, you pop it out, you put your feet on it, and then you can stand up and relieve that pressure. It takes the pressure off everything. So basically, it's all on your feet like you're standing normal. This is to help with your blood flow because you don't want, again, you don't want to cut off that blood flow.
And so that's important. If you're going to get, say you fell off a building, it's not like someone can instantly come and save you. It's going to take a few minutes till they can get to you. Either get a lift, get a boom truck, get a ladder, whatever they need to do to get to you. You have to be hanging there for a good 10 minutes or more. So you want to make sure you can relieve that pressure. Now, sometimes you can just, there's ones that has a strap across the butt. You might be able to grab the rope and sit down on it to relieve the pressure. But whatever you're doing, you want to try to relieve that pressure that's going across this major artery. And so if you are stuck, you're helping someone who gets stuck and they're in a fall rest system. When they get to the ground, be careful loosening these things and don't have them walk around or stand up right away because it can cause shock because all of a sudden that blood that was stuck now is going to mix really fast and it can cause them to pass out or cause other major health problems. So just be careful, be aware when you're doing this, you want to make sure they recover slowly.
When you're using a fall arrest system, you want to make sure you aren't going to hit the ground if you fall. You want to make sure the rope's short enough that if you actually fell, it'll stop you before you hit the ground. And so there's some things you have to calculate. For instance, what is the height of where it's attached to all the way to the ground? What is that overall height? And then how long is the rope? How long is your lanyard? How long is your shock absorber? You have to add all those things up. So by the time you fall, you're still off the ground. And so this is why those retractable lanyards are neat, because it'll always stay short enough where you're going to basically, it'll catch you. You're never going to hit the ground. Whereas the other lanyards, you've got to make sure the rope length and thing isn't too long. Here is a rope. There's different kind of lifelines, different ways. They said your anchor is how you attach, but then there's different ways you can attach to that anchor. Here, the rope is attached to the anchor, and then your harness actually gets attached to the rope. We have one of these. We have this system. And so it works is when that pin gets pulled, it clamps down basically a Chinese finger trap on that rope, and it locks you in place. And then here is just another way this slides on the beam like I showed you. Sometimes you get a horizontal lifeline. A lifeline is your anchorage point, and so on this building, there's a permanent wire that goes all the way around. So when you're working on the roof, you just click onto it, and then you can walk around the building. And so this is just a horizontal lifeline or tagline. You just always connect onto that. Those are really nice because you can move around. It's not just one anchor point. You can fly across the roof. Guardrails, specific height. I believe it's 42 inches. Make sure the guardrail is like that. And then also, you need to make sure you have some kind of toe board so you aren't kicking stuff over the edge. See, the roof here itself has a lip on it, so you can't kick things over, but you want to make sure you aren't kicking your tools off the scaffold. We talked about ladders in a different video. Something I didn't mention, but if you're don't use aluminum or metal ladders when working around electrical. You want to use fiberglass or wood. Fiberglass is the best. They last the longest. They're expensive, but they're going to last you the longest. If you leave them out in the sun, the fiberglass can get worn out, so don't do that. Store them well, but they're going to last you forever. Wood ladders are sturdy, but they can wear out. Wood just gets old and corroded, and there's a lot of upkeep to them. You got to paint them and make sure they're maintained, whereas fiberglass are good to go. So scaffolding. All right, scaffolding is just a mobile work platform, essentially. It's temporary, you put it up just to take it back down. Scaffold, they're using this stuff, hundreds of feet up in the air in sky rises in New York City and these places. Some of them are motorized, but some of these other countries where the regulations they don't have OSHA like we do. They're making this stuff out of bamboo and they're up hundreds of feet, and it's kind of sketchy. So here in America, we want to keep us safe. We don't want any scaffold issues. And there are jobs where it's a full-time job making this stuff because you're doing so much of it. You're putting it together and taking it apart. And it's just the big erector set or Legos. It's just, they click together, you just keep moving forward. So you can make a lot of money doing this too. So going to these big commercial job sites, all you got to do is put this stuff together and take it apart. And so there's your different parts. There's different kinds of leveling feet. You can put wheels on them sometimes where you can wheel them around. And so you never want to unlock the wheels while someone's on it. You shouldn't be pushing people around if they're standing on top of it. You shouldn't be moving. You should climb down and then move it. Now, if you're only like 4 feet off the ground, I mean, I've done it a lot. It's convenient, but you aren't going to hurt yourself. Technically, you aren't supposed to do that, but especially when you're up a couple, you can do these things 3 or 4 high. You don't want to be moving that around when someone's on it, because in case a wheel fell in a little hole or something, and that leans to one side, it's going to make a big impact. So make sure you're safe on the scaffold. Different tags. Green means it's safe to use. Yellow means it's unsafe. You got to check it. Red means don't touch it. Get away from it. So, scaffold story. I was working with, we were putting up metal floor joists in a big church gymnasium. And so we were on scaffolds, and the wheels, we didn't have the locking pins to lock the wheels in. They slide in, but we didn't have the pin that secures them. But you think gravity is going to hold them down because all the weight, so how is it going to pop out? So you're moving these big floor joists. They're made out of metal, really heavy. I was on one side, another worker was on the other one, so we were both on our own separate scaffolds across the way. And so when they were handing up the big metal beam, when he picked it up, it shifted the weight on his scaffold. And so it leaned it one way, and that was just enough for the wheel to slide out and pop out. And so then when the weight went back down, when he shifted its position, that corner didn't have any support, and the whole scaffold fell over. And then so he falls off, and then on top of him lands the metal beam, right? And so it could have been really scary. Thankfully, we weren't up very high. We were only up maybe 8 feet, and no one got seriously hurt. There's some guys there to help catch the metal beam so it didn't hit on full impact. That was pretty scary. There's nothing I could do on my end. I just had to watch it because I'm 20 feet away on the other side of the room. And so you got to make sure you put those things in. If you lose the pin, find a piece of wire, find something, a nail, and bend it over. Do something to make sure you always have everything locked in. Never use scaffold without all the pins locking it together, because if it falls apart when you're up in the air, it gets really scary. Trust me.